Here's the first thing that I think is important to put on the table. I think a lot of you, like many Americans across the country, are wondering, what has happened in this country and where do we stand in world affairs? Where do we stand with the economy? We saw in the survey that, some of you think it's, the recovery is coming 6 months to 2 years, and some of you are still convinced it's going to take a little bit longer. I think it is important for everybody in the room to understand that economic growth hasn't disappeared. I want you to think about what happens with the headlines that we see each and every day. We turn on CNN, we turn on Fox News, we read the newspaper, and what are we reading? We're reading these headlines, the American banks face a financial meltdown if their reforms fail. We're reading, about the mortgage meltdown. We're reading about, the money managers, they've been shaken and bruised by the big global meltdown. We've seen a market cap meltdown with billions of dollars in value blown away. We've seen Congress caught in a bind over the bank crisis. We've seen the realty crisis going global. Every single day, we get up and it's a bundle of news negativity that begins to start our approach to the day. And what does that do? That causes us to sit back and go into a mode that I call aggressive indecision. We're not sure when the recovery is really going to be coming. So let's defer that capital spending project. Let's defer that project we were going to pursue to upgrade some of our holes. Let's defer that investment in new equipment, which might let us do something better in terms of our green quality. We're not quite sure when the recovery is coming, so let's defer everything. Let's become indecisive. What happens during a recession is we become aggressively indecisive. But what's so absolutely fascinating about these newspaper headlines? What's fascinating about these newspaper headlines is if you look at the date that they appeared in print. 1987, 1989, 1990. I think part of what has happened here is the newspaper industry has, read about the importance of recycling. And so what they're doing for this recession, they're simply recycling the headlines from the last recession. It makes it a lot easier. But think about it. Haven't we been here before? I'm not trying to downplay the significance of the Great Reset which has occurred in this economy, but we've seen this movie before. Personally, this is my 6th recession in my professional career. I figure I probably have 3 or 4 recessions to go. I think I'm sort of getting pretty good at it. And we know how the movie ends. We know how the movie ends. The movie ends with predictions and fact of economic recovery. Here's a way to think about the economy. Bill Gates once made the observation that if you think about what people do, we always tend to overestimate the rate of change that will occur on a 2-year basis. We underestimate the rate of change that is going to occur on a 10-year basis. I'm out there across America, around the world, with some of the leading industrial organizations in healthcare, organizations in virtually every single industry. And I write a lot about growth. I write a lot about the observations that I see that are out there, which are providing the building blocks for sustainable economic growth. And I go out and I talk to these organizations about growth. I have to be an optimist. I can't be a futurist. Imagine if I was a futurist who was a pessimist. And I walk out here on stage and I say, guess what? Your future sucks. It really doesn't resonate. So, what's really happening? Well, from my view, what is providing for long-term sustainable country is our realization in the US, and Canada, and Western Europe, and the industrialized world, that we have some pretty big problems. We have big problems with healthcare. We have big problems with the environment. And we have big problems with energy. And what is happening out there right now is there are organizations who are investing a tremendous amount of time, a tremendous amount of innovation energy, a tremendous amount of insight, a tremendous amount of resource to solving these 3 problems. And that's what's providing for the industrial and other solutions which are going to drag us out of this. I was speaking at an energy conference recently. I was talking about the whole issue of renewable energy and the whole issue of solar-based energy. And there is a belief that we are rapidly approaching the period of time what we would call grid parity. And that is the period of time in which the cost to produce energy from solar cells will become equal to or less than the cost of producing it via traditional carbon sources. Because there's so much innovation occurring, there's so much research and development occurring, so many new discoveries, because the pace of scientific discovery is speeding up. We don't see this stuff in the headlines. People don't really talk about that because it doesn't fit the storyline of today. I was with another organization, PPG, the International Glass and Ceramics and Optical Company. And we were talking about, imagine a scenario if optical or solar power grew as fast as Facebook grew. Think about what would happen. Day one, day two, by day two, we've eliminated most of the coal. By 3.7 years, we're in a situation in which we've got, most of the US is using solar. In 4.7 years, the entire world's energy source is driven by solar. Think about what happens in a world in which change speeds up and things become exponential. And all of a sudden, we're solving big problems with innovative solutions. What I'm finding out there is that world-class innovators are concentrating on massive long-term transformative opportunities as a driver for sustainable growth. I don't have concerns about the future.